The communication array lit up with another distress signal. So He Choi watched the screen with tired eyes. This was the 47th broadcast from the Velan homeworld in the past week, each one more desperate than the last. Captain Hyun-Soo Kim stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, reading through the translated messages. His crew had been monitoring the situation for months now. The Krath Dominion had started their invasion of Velan space 6 months ago. Now, the Velan people were dying by the millions. "Play the latest message," Hyun-Soo said quietly. So he tapped her console. A hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed a small Velan child, no more than 6 years old by human standards. Her blue skin was covered in dust and blood. Behind her, buildings burned. The sound of explosions echoed through the transmission. "Please," the child whispered in broken galactic common. "Anyone, help us. They are killing everyone. My mother is dead. My father is dead. Please, someone help." The transmission cut to static. The child's final words hung in the air. No one on the bridge spoke. They had seen dozens of these messages. The Galactic Council had seen them too. But no one was coming to help the Velans. Hyun-Soo turned to his communications officer. "Send this to Ambassador G1 Park on Earth. Mark it Priority 1. 3 days later, Ambassador G1 Park stood before the United Defense Council on Earth. The room was filled with representatives from every nation. Screens around the chamber showed the Velan distress calls. The images were hard to watch. "The Galactic Council has refused to intervene," G1 said. Her voice was steady, but her hands gripped the podium tightly. "They say it is a territorial dispute. They say the Krath Dominion is too powerful to fight. They say that interfering would violate council law. Arquarus. Arquarus. They say," an older councilman from the European Union stood up. "What is our military assessment of the situation?" G1 pulled up a tactical display. "The Krath have deployed 300 warships to Velan space. They have orbital superiority. Ground forces are conducting systematic elimination of the population. Intelligence suggests total extinction of the Velan species within 2 months. And if we intervene?" asked a representative from the African coalition. "We would be alone," G1 answered. "The Council has made it clear that no other species will support military action. We would face the Krath Dominion without allies." The room erupted in debate. Some argued that humanity should not risk itself for aliens they barely knew. Others pointed out that humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for 50 years and had never been accepted as equals. Why should they fight for a system that looked down on them? But then, a young councilwoman from Korea stood up. Her name was Min Ji, and she was known for speaking her mind. "I have a question for everyone here. If we had sent a distress call in our history, when we were facing extinction, what would we have wanted? Would we have wanted the universe to debate politics while we died?" The room went quiet. "We have all seen the messages," Minji continued. "We have all seen that child begging for help. Every major power in the galaxy heard her too. And they all decided she was not worth saving. Is that the kind of universe we want to live in?" The vote was called. It took less than an hour. The decision was unanimous. Earth would intervene. 2 weeks later, Captain Hyun-Soo Kim received new orders. He was to take the horizon's edge and join the assembling fleet at Mars. Humanity was going to war. The Galactic Council called an emergency session when they learned of Earth's decision. Elder Counselor Thelvan, a being that had lived for 600 years, addressed Ambassador G1 Park with something close to pity. "Your species is committing suicide," Thelvan said. "The Krath Dominion has conquered 40 systems. Their military is the third most powerful in the galaxy. You have 80 ships. They have 300 just in Velan space alone." G1 stood before the council chamber. Representatives from 200 species watched her. She could feel their mixture of curiosity and contempt. Humans were still considered primitive by galactic standards. "Why are you doing this?" asked another counselor. The Velans mean nothing to you. You have no trade agreements with them, no strategic interest, no shared history. They asked for help, G1 said simply. Many species ask for help, Thelvan replied. The galaxy is full of conflicts. We cannot intervene in all of them. Then you cannot intervene in any of them when it matters. G1 shot back. We have reviewed the records. The Krath Dominion has enslaved 17 species over the past 300 years. They have committed what we call genocide at least 8 times. The Council has done nothing. We have filed diplomatic protests, a counselor objected. Protests, G1 repeated. You filed protests while billions died. You wrote strongly worded letters while entire civilizations were erased. And now you stand here and tell us we are fools for actually doing something. You will all die, Thelvan said flatly. And we will not be able to help you. When the Krath turned their attention to Earth, G1 picked up her documents. Then I guess we better make sure we win. As she left the council chamber, she heard the whispers. The other species thought humanity was insane. They gave Earth a 10% chance of survival. Back on the horizon's edge, Hyun-Soo watched as the fleet assembled. 80 ships from Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies. It was not a large fleet by galactic standards, but it was everything humanity could spare. His second officer, a young man named Tae-jin, approached. Sir, we are receiving messages from home. People want to know if we are really doing this. Hyun-Soo looked at the tactical display. It showed the route to Velan space. 3 weeks of travel. Then, they would face an enemy that had never lost a major battle. Yes, he said. We are really doing this. So he pulled up the last distress call from the Velan homeworld. The one with the little girl. Do you think she is still alive, sir? Do you think she is still alive, sir? Hyun-Soo did not answer immediately. He thought about his own daughter back on Earth. She was about the same age as the Velan child. I hope so, he finally said. Because we are coming for her. The fleet jumped to hyperspace. Behind them, Earth watched and waited. Ahead of them, the Krath Dominion prepared to destroy another foolish species that dared to challenge them. And somewhere on a dying world, a small Velan girl hid in the ruins of her home, still hoping that someone would answer her call for help. The galaxy was about to learn something important about humanity. They were about to learn that when humans made a promise, they kept it, no matter the cost. Admiral Taewon Ryu stood on the command deck of the warship Indomitable. Around him, holographic displays showed the Velan system. What he saw made his jaw tighten. 3 Krath Dominion warships were in low orbit over the Velan homeworld. They were firing plasma beams at the surface. Cities burned below. The sensors showed massive heat signatures where population centers used to be. How many Velans are left? Taewon asked. Nari Bay, his tactical officer, checked her console. She was young but brilliant with numbers. Guji estimate 200 million. Down from 4 billion 6 months ago. The bridge went silent. 200 million. Left. That meant the Krath had killed or enslaved billions of people. Sir, the Krath fleet is hailing us, said the communications officer. Put it through. A massive alien appeared on the main screen. Lord Captain Vexthor of the Krath Dominion looked like a cross between a reptile and an insect. His armor was decorated with symbols showing his victories. Behind him, Taewon could see rows of Krath soldiers. Human vessels, you have entered Krath space without permission, Vexthor said. His voice was translated by the ship's computer. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. Taewon looked at the tactical display. 300 Krath ships against 80 human vessels. Every military academy in the galaxy would say this was impossible. Humanity should surrender or run. This is Admiral Taewon Ryu of the United Earth Defense Force. We are here to protect the Velan people. Cease your attack immediately and withdraw your forces. Vexthor laughed. It was a harsh, clicking sound. The council told us Humans were stupid. They were right. You have 80 primitive ships. We have 300 warships that have conquered 40 star systems. Leave now, and we will let you live. Taewon thought about the little Velen girl from the distress call. He thought about the billions already dead. He thought about what would happen if humanity did nothing. No, he said simply. All ships, Taewon announced on the fleet channel. Lock weapons. Prepare to engage. His officers looked nervous. They knew the numbers, but they had their orders. Sir, the Kroth are moving to attack formation, Nari reported. Let them come. All ships, hold position. Wait for my mark. The Krath fleet approached in their traditional battle formation. They had done this 1,000 times before. Their shields were designed to absorb energy weapons. Their tactics were proven against every major military power in the galaxy. But they had never fought humans before. Range in 30 seconds, Nari said. 20 seconds. 10 seconds. All ships, Taewon said calmly. Fire. The human fleet opened up with everything they had. Railguns fired solid metal slugs at a fraction of the speed of light. Nuclear missiles launched by the hundreds. Plasma cannons lit up the dark space. The Krath shields held against the plasma. They were designed for that. But the railgun rounds passed right through the energy shields and smashed into the Krath hull armor. The nuclear missiles detonated against the shields, overloading them with raw thermal energy. The front line of the Kroth fleet shattered. 20 ships destroyed in the first 30 seconds. What are they doing? Vex Thor screamed on the Krath command channel. Why are their weapons working? The truth was simple. The galaxy had spent thousands of years perfecting energy weapons and energy shields. They had forgotten about simple kinetic weapons. Humans had not. Humanity still remembered how to throw rocks really, really fast. Break formation, Vex Thor ordered. Overwhelm them with numbers. But Commander Sang-Ho Lee was already moving. He led the Special Warfare Division, 20 fast attack ships designed for close combat. While the main fleet kept the Krath busy, Sang-Ho took his ships around the enemy formation. Target those command ships, Sang-Ho ordered. Boarding teams, prepare for insertion. His ships launched hundreds of small boarding pods. They were basically armored capsules with Marines inside. The pods shot across space and latched onto the Krath command vessels. The Krath had never dealt with boarding actions before. In galactic warfare, boarding was considered too risky. Why send soldiers into an enemy ship when you could just destroy it from a distance? But humans were different. Humans were very good at fighting in tight spaces. Sang-Ho led the first boarding team himself. His pod crashed through the hull of a Krath command ship. The Marines poured out, weapons ready. The Krath soldiers inside were not prepared. They carried energy weapons meant for long-range combat. The humans had shotguns, assault rifles, and combat knives. In the narrow corridors of the ship, the humans were devastating. Move, move, Sang-Ho shouted. His team fought through 3 decks in 5 minutes. They reached the command center and breached the door. The Kroth officers inside tried to fight. Sang-Ho shot the first one, dodged the second, and put a combat knife through the third. His team secured the room in seconds. Command center secure, he reported. Accessing their tactical network now. Back on the Indomitable, Nari received the data from the captured ship. Sir, we have access to their communications. I can see their entire fleet layout. Feed it to all our ships, Taewon ordered. Target their command vessels first. The battle turned into a massacre. The human fleet knew exactly where every Krath ship was. Nari coordinated drone swarms that confused the Krath targeting systems. Human ships worked in groups, focusing fire on one enemy vessel at a time. The Krath tried to adapt. Vex Thor was a skilled commander, but he had never faced an enemy that fought like this. The humans had no honor codes. They gave no warnings. They attacked from multiple angles, used deception, and focused on destroying the enemy's ability to fight back. Fall back, Vex Thor finally ordered. All ships, retreat to Rally Point Beta. But Tae-1 was not going to let them escape. Pursuit formation. Don't let any of them reach hyperspace. The human fleet chased down the fleeing Krath ships. It was brutal. The Krath begged for mercy over open channels. The humans remembered the billions of dead Valens and showed the same mercy the Krath had shown them. 4 hours after it started, the battle was over. 300 Krath ships destroyed. 12 human ships damaged. 2 destroyed completely. Tae-1 stood on his bridge, looking at the casualty reports. 800 human crew members dead. It hurt. Each one of those deaths would be reported back to Earth. 800 families would receive the worst news of their lives. But on the planet below, 200 million Velens still lived. And now they had a chance to survive. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the surface," the communications officer said. A Velen appeared on screen. He was old, his blue skin scarred and dirty. Behind him, Tae-1 could see other Velens emerging from underground shelters. "Are you real?" the Velan elder asked. His voice shook. Tae-1 felt a lump in his throat. "Yes, we are real, and we are here to help." The Velan elder started to cry. "We prayed. We sent so many messages. No one answered. No one came. We thought we were going to die alone." "Not alone," Tae-1 said. Commander Sang-ho organized rescue operations on the surface. Medical teams beamed down to help the wounded. Engineers began working on getting power and water restored to the surviving cities. And in a collapsed building in the capital city, a search and rescue team found a small Velan girl hiding under debris. She was weak, starving, but alive. When the human medic picked her up, she asked the same question her people had been asking for months. "Did someone come to help?" The medic, a young woman named Hei Jin, smiled through her tears. "Yes, little one. We came. And we are not leaving until you are safe." News of the battle spread across the galaxy in hours. The impossible had happened. Humanity had defeated a Krath fleet. The species that everyone thought was primitive and weak had just won a major military victory. On Earth, people celebrated. On the Galactic Council, the elder species watched with growing concern. And in the heart of the Krath Dominion, the Supreme Leader received the news of Vexus Thor's defeat. The Krath had ruled through fear and power for 600 years. No one had ever defeated them like this. The Supreme Leader made a decision. Humanity had humiliated the Krath Dominion. There could be only one response: total war. General Eugene Song looked at the holographic map of Krath Dominion space. Red markers showed Krath military installations across 47 star systems. She had been studying these targets for 2 weeks, ever since the Krath declared total war on humanity. President Dongwu Kang stood beside her in the underground command center on Earth. Around them, military officers from every branch of service waited for orders. "The Krath are mobilizing their entire fleet," Dongwu said. "Intelligence reports over 2,000 warships moving toward our colonies." "Let them come," Eugen replied. She zoomed in on the map, highlighting specific systems. "They expect us to defend, to wait for them to attack. That is how galactic warfare works. But that is not how human warfare works," Dongwu finished. Eugen smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Exactly. We are going to show them what happens when humans actually fight a war." She pulled up a document on her tablet. "This is Protocol Hellstorm. I have been working on it with Dr. Haewon Shin. She is a military historian. She studied every major war humanity has ever fought." Dongwu read through the protocol. His eyes widened. "This is brutal." "War is brutal," Eugen said. "The Krath have won because no one in the galaxy fights total war anymore. They have debates. They follow rules. They try to limit damage. But humans know the truth. If you are going to fight, you fight to win." The plan was simple but devastating. Humanity would not wait for the Krath to attack. Instead, they would strike first at 47 Krath systems simultaneously. They would target everything that made the Krath military function: supply depots, fuel refineries, shipyards, communication networks, food production facilities. We will not just defeat their military, Yujin explained. We will destroy their ability to make war. Captain Kijun Han received his orders 3 days later. He commanded the Silent Requiem, a stealth reconnaissance ship. His mission was to gather intelligence on Krath supply routes. For 2 months, Kijun and his crew mapped the entire Krath logistics network. They watched how the Krath moved supplies from their industrial systems to their military bases. They identified the key systems that kept the Krath war machine running. It is like a spider web, Kijun reported to command. Everything connects through these 12 central hubs. Take out those hubs, and the entire network collapses. Dr. Hei Wan Shin reviewed the data in her office on Mars. She was old, almost 70, and had spent her entire life studying military history. She had written books about World War II, about the Mongol conquests, about the ancient wars of Korea and China. Do you know why humans are good at war? She asked her assistant. Because we have practiced for 10,000 years. We have fought wars on every continent. We have tried every strategy, made every mistake, and we learned. She pulled up historical records. The galaxy has known relative peace for millennia. They have rules about warfare, honor codes, limitations. But humans? We invented total war. We invented strategic bombing. We invented the concept of breaking an enemy's will to fight. The Krath did not understand this. They thought warfare was about military strength. They did not realize that wars were won by logistics, by resources, by the ability to sustain fighting over time. The human attack began on a Tuesday morning, Galactic Standard Time. 47 human fleets jumped into Krath space simultaneously. But they did not attack military bases first. They attacked supply depots. In the Krath system of Helox, a human fleet appeared near the orbital fuel refineries. These refineries supplied the entire Eastern Krath fleet. Admiral Ji-hoon Park did not waste time with demands for surrender. Destroy everything, he ordered. His ships opened fire on the refineries. Nuclear missiles detonated among the fuel storage tanks. The explosions could be seen from 3 star systems away. In 10 minutes, the Krath Eastern Fleet lost 60% of its fuel supply. The same scene repeated across Krath space. Shipyards were destroyed. Communication satellites were shot down. Food storage facilities were turned to rubble. But Yujin had learned from human history. She knew that psychological warfare was just as important as physical destruction. Every attack was broadcast back to Krath, civilian populations. The videos showed Krath ships burning. They showed the mighty Dominion's military bases exploding. They showed humans fighting with a ferocity that terrified the Krath people. We want them scared, Yujin explained to her staff. We want every Krath citizen to question whether this war is worth it. The Krath supreme leader, a being called Talgorath, tried to rally his people. He gave speeches about the glory of the Dominion. He promised that the Krath would crush these upstart humans, but privately, Talgorath was terrified. He had ruled for 200 years. He had conquered dozens of systems, but he had never faced an enemy like this. They are everywhere, his military advisor reported. They are attacking our supply lines, our communication networks, our industrial bases. We cannot protect everything. Send the fleet to defend our core systems, Talgorath ordered. Which fleet, Supreme Leader? The Eastern Fleet has no fuel. The Northern Fleet is stranded without shipyard support. The Southern Fleet lost its command and control network. Talgorath realized the horrible truth. The humans were not just fighting his military. They were dismantling his entire empire. Kijun and the Silent Requiem continued their reconnaissance missions. They identified a Krath military academy, where officers were trained. Yujin made a difficult decision. Do not attack it, she ordered. I want those officers scared, not dead. I want them to graduate and tell every soldier in the Krath military what happens when you fight humans. It was psychological warfare at its finest. Young Krath officers watched human fleets destroy targets with precision. They saw how humans coordinated attacks across multiple systems. They learned to fear the name Earth. 8 months into the war, the Krath Dominion was collapsing. Not because humanity destroyed their entire military, but because they destroyed the systems that supported that military. Krath soldiers in forward bases ran out of food. Ships were stranded without fuel. Communication between Krath forces broke down. Systems that had been part of the Dominion for centuries began to rebel. On Earth, there were protests. Some people thought the war was too brutal. They showed images of Krath civilians suffering from food shortages. They asked if humanity had become the monster they were fighting. President Dongwu addressed the planet. I understand your concerns. I share them. War is terrible. But remember why we are fighting. The Krath enslaved 17 species. They committed genocide 8 times. They killed 4 billion Velans for no reason other than they could. He paused, letting his words sink in. We did not start this war. We did not want this war. But we will finish it. And we will make sure the Krath never threaten another species again. Dr. Haywan published a paper during the war. It was titled, Why Humanity Fights Differently. In it, she explained that human history was marked by conflict. Humans had evolved to be efficient at warfare. Other species in the galaxy evolved on peaceful worlds, she wrote. They developed civilization without major conflicts. But humans? We fought each other for resources, territory, survival. We developed strategies for total war because we had no choice. It was fight efficiently or die. The paper became required reading at every military academy in human space. It also circulated among the Galactic Council. The elder species read it with growing horror and understanding. By month 11, the Krath Dominion's 600-year-old empire was breaking apart. Colony systems were declaring independence. The military was fragmented and demoralized. The civilian population was calling for peace. Talgorath sat in his command chamber, watching his empire die. He had one choice left. He could keep fighting and watch his entire civilization be destroyed. Or he could surrender. He thought about the videos of human fleets. He thought about the precision of their attacks. He thought about how they had taken apart his empire, piece by piece. And he realized that the humans could have destroyed the Krath homeworld at any time. They had the power to wipe out his entire species. But they had not. They had targeted military and industrial sites. They had minimized civilian casualties. The humans were not fighting to exterminate the Krath. They were fighting to stop them. Talgorath made his decision. He contacted the human fleet and asked to negotiate surrender. General Eugene Song received the message. She looked at President Dongwu. It is done, she said. They are beaten. Dongwu nodded slowly. Then let us finish this the right way. The galaxy watched as humanity prepared to dictate terms to an empire that had ruled for 6 centuries. No one knew what the humans would demand. Some expected revenge. Others feared humanity would become a new empire. But what happened next surprised everyone. Because humans, for all their skill at war, also understood something else. They understood how to build peace. Ambassador Ji Won Park walked into the Galactic Council chamber for the 2nd time in a year. The last time she had stood here, the Council told her humanity was committing suicide. Now she returned as the representative of the species that had defeated the Krath Dominion in 11 months. The chamber was full. Representatives from 200 species watched her. But the atmosphere was different now. Before, they had looked at her with pity or contempt. Now, they looked at her with fear. Elder Counselor Thelvan spoke first. His voice was cold. Ambassador Park, the Council has received numerous complaints about human conduct during the war. We are convening this tribunal to address potential war crimes. G1 had expected this. She placed her tablet on the podium and pulled up files. I welcome the investigation. Shall we begin with the evidence? For the next hour, G1 presented a detailed account of the war. She showed the Council every target humanity had struck, every weapon used, every civilian area that was protected. She had prepared for this moment carefully. The human military destroyed 47 supply depots, 32 fuel refineries, 18 shipyards, and 12 communication hubs, she stated. We targeted military and industrial infrastructure. Civilian casualties were less than 1% of Krath population. A counselor from the Nexian species stood up. But you destroyed food production facilities. You caused starvation among Krath civilians. We destroyed military food storage, G1 corrected. We left civilian food production intact. If Krath civilians went hungry, it was because their government prioritized military rations over civilian needs. She pulled up more files. Now, shall I show you what we found in those systems we liberated? Shall I show the Council the Krath slave camps? The biological weapons research? The mass graves? The chamber went silent. G1 had evidence of every crime the Krath had committed over 600 years. She had been collecting it throughout the war. The Krath enslaved the Velen people, she continued. They enslaved the Tauran people, the Kalseth, the Veroni, 17 species in total. They committed what humanity calls genocide against 8 civilizations. They used biological weapons on 3 inhabited worlds. End. Number 4. End. Endom. Number 4. Number 4. Number 4. Endom-dom. Number 4. Endom-dom. She looked directly at Thelvan. Where was the Council during all of this? Where were the tribunals for Krath war crimes? Thelvan's face showed no emotion. The Council filed diplomatic protests. Protests, G1 repeated. She let the word hang in the air. You filed protests while billions died. You wrote letters while civilizations were erased. And now you call us war criminals because we actually stopped them? Another counselor spoke up. You could have used diplomatic solutions. You could have negotiated. G1 laughed. It was a bitter sound. Negotiate? With the Krath? They were conducting orbital bombardment when we arrived. They were killing millions of Velens. Should we have asked them politely to stop? She took a breath, calming herself. The Council accuses us of being too brutal, too aggressive. But we won this war in 11 months, with minimal civilian casualties. How many billions would have died if we had fought a proper galactic war that lasted decades? On Earth, Colonel Unsujang was dealing with a different kind of problem. His ground forces had captured thousands of Krath prisoners during the war. Now, he had to figure out what to do with them. He walked through the POW camp on Mars. Krath soldiers sat in cells, waiting to learn their fate. Many were young. Yun Su had reviewed their files. Most had been conscripted. They did not want to fight. They just wanted to go home. What do we do with them, sir? His second officer asked. Yun Su thought about the easy answer. The Krath had shown no mercy to their enemies. It would be simple to treat them the same way. But that was not who humans were. Not really. We treat them according to the Geneva Convention, Yun Su said. Medical care. Food. Basic dignity. They are prisoners, not animals. Some of them committed atrocities, sir. Those ones we identify and try for war crimes. The rest we hold until peace is established. Then we send them home. It was harder than it sounded. Unsu had lost friends in the war. Men and women under his command had died fighting these Krath soldiers. But he knew that revenge was not justice, and humanity needed to be better than their enemies. Subino was a war correspondent who had followed human forces throughout the conflict. She had filmed battles, interviewed soldiers, and documented both victories and losses. Now she was compiling her reports into a documentary. The footage she had was powerful. It showed human Marines charging into battle. It showed Krath ships exploding. It showed the moment when Velen refugees realized they were being saved. But it also showed the cost. Subin had filmed the funerals on Earth. She had interviewed the families of the 47,000 humans who died in the war. She had captured the moment when a young soldier broke down crying after seeing what was left of a Krath city after the fighting. People need to see both sides, Subin told her editor. They need to see the heroism and the horror. They need to understand that war is not glorious. It is necessary sometimes, but it is never good. Her documentary would play a crucial role in helping humanity process what they had done. Because winning a war was one thing. Living with the consequences was another. Back at the Galactic Council, G1 was presenting humanity's terms for peace. Talgorath, the Krath Supreme Leader, sat in a special chamber. He was attending the session remotely. For his own safety, the council said. Really, they just did not want him there in person. These are humanity's requirements for peace, G1 announced. First, immediate cessation of all military operations. Second, complete demilitarization of Krath forces. Third, reparations paid to all enslaved species. Fourth, war crime tribunals for Krath military leadership. Fifth, 100 years of Galactic Council oversight to ensure compliance. The terms were harsh but not impossible. Humanity was not demanding the destruction of the Krath species. They were not taking Krath territory. They were simply ensuring the Krath could never threaten another species again. Talgorath appeared on the screen. He looked old and tired. We accept your terms. Just like that, the war was over. 11 months of fighting. 47,000 human deaths. Countless Krath military casualties. And an empire that had ruled for 600 years was now disarmed and defeated. But G1 was not finished. She turned to the council. Humanity has one more requirement. We want the council to establish a formal protection protocol. Any species facing extinction can call for help, and the council must respond. Finnender, we have noting 1. Cianider, we have notender Singsting line. 71. Impossible, Thelvan said. The council cannot commit to military intervention in every conflict. Then what good is the council? G1 shot back. If you will not protect the weak, what is your purpose? The debate lasted for days. In the end, a compromise was reached. The council would establish a rapid response force. Member species would contribute ships and personnel. If a species was facing extinction-level threats, help would come. It was not perfect, but it was better than the old system where genocides happened and the council did nothing. On Earth, President Dongwu Kang stood before a memorial wall. It held the names of all 47,000 humans who had died in the war. He read some of the names. Young men and women. Experienced veterans. People who had volunteered to help strangers. Was it worth it? A reporter asked him. Dongwu thought about the Valen girl from the first distress call. She had survived. She was safe now, living with her aunt on the Valen homeworld. The Valen species would recover. 200 million people had a future because humanity had acted. Ask the Velans if it was worth it, Dongwu said quietly. Ask the 17 enslaved species who are now free. Ask the future civilizations who will not face the Krath dominion. Then you will have your answer. He paused, looking at the memorial. But also, ask the families of these 47,000. Ask them what this victory cost. Because that is the price of peace. Someone has to be willing to pay it. Memorial ceremonies were held across human space. Every person who died was honored. Their families received full benefits and support. Humanity took care of its own. Colonel Yun-Su stood at one ceremony, watching a young woman receive her husband's medal. The man had died saving a Velen family from a collapsing building. The woman cried as she accepted the medal, holding her infant son. Yun-Su approached her after the ceremony. Your husband was a hero. He was a good man, she replied. But I wish he was here. I know. I am sorry. She looked at him with red eyes. Just tell me it mattered. Tell me he did not die for nothing. Yunsu thought about all the people they had saved. All the species that were now free. All the future wars that might be prevented because humanity had drawn a line. It mattered, he said. I promise you, it mattered. The war was over. The Krath were defeated. The galaxy was changing. But the cost had been real. And humanity would never forget the price they paid to answer a desperate plea for help. 5 years had passed since the Krath War ended. Admiral Hyun-Soo Kim stood on the bridge of his new ship, the Defender. It was not just a human vessel anymore. The crew included Velans, Tauren, and even a few reformed Krath who had proven themselves during rehabilitation. Admiral, we are receiving a distress signal from the Caliph system, reported his communications officer. A species called the Mira are under attack by raiders. Hyun-Soo looked at the tactical display. The Caliph system was 3 days away at maximum speed. 3 days might be too long. All ships, prepare for jump. Maximum speed. Send a message ahead. Tell them help is coming. His second officer, a Velan named Soren, smiled. They will not believe it. 5 years ago, no one came when we called. 5 years ago, the galaxy was different, Hyun-Soo replied. Now they will learn that someone always answers. The galaxy had changed dramatically since humanity defeated the Krath. 17 species that had been enslaved were now free. Some had rebuilt quickly. Others were still recovering. But all of them remembered who had freed them. Ambassador G1 Park now led something called the Coalition of Free Worlds. It was an alliance of species who believed in mutual protection. 53 species had joined. More were applying every month. G1 sat in her office on the new coalition station, reviewing membership applications. Each application included a promise. If any member faced extinction-level threats, all members would respond. It was the opposite of the old Galactic Council, which debated while people died. Ambassador, the Taloxian delegation is here for their application review, her assistant said. G1 stood and greeted the Taloxians. They were a peaceful species, skilled traders with little military. The old galaxy would have seen them as weak. The new galaxy saw them as valuable members who deserved protection. Welcome, G1 said. Let us discuss your application. On Earth, Minister of Defense Yu Jin-song reviewed military readiness reports. She was older now, approaching 70, but still sharp. The human military had changed after the war. They were no longer just defending Earth. They were training allied forces across the galaxy. General, how is the Velan Defense Force progressing? She asked her staff officer. Excellent, Minister. They have adapted human tactics well. Combined with their natural spatial awareness, they are becoming formidable pilots. Yujin smiled. The goal was not to make everyone fight like humans. It was to help each species use their natural strengths. Valens had excellent three-dimensional awareness. The Tauren had incredible reflexes. The Kalseth were brilliant engineers. Together, they were building something new. A galaxy where strength came from cooperation, not domination. But not everyone was happy with the changes. Elder Counselor Thel Van sat in the old Galactic Council chamber. The council still existed, but it had lost much of its power. Many species had left to join the coalition instead. The humans have upset the natural order, Thel Van said to his advisors. They have introduced chaos to a system that worked for millennia. With respect, Elder, the old system allowed the Krath to enslave billions, an advisor replied carefully. Thel Van waved a hand dismissively. That was unfortunate. The advisor said nothing, but he was thinking about requesting a transfer to the coalition. More and more council members were doing that lately. In the Velan education system, young students learned about the war. They studied how humanity had answered their distress call. They learned about the 47,000 humans who died to save them. One of those students was Kalira. She was the little girl from the first distress call. the one who had begged for help while her world burned. She was 16 now, and she had made a decision. "I want to join the Human Military Academy," she told her aunt. Her aunt, who had raised her after her parents died, looked worried. "Why?" "We have our own defense force now." "Because they saved us," Kalira said. "Because when no one else came, humans did. And I want to learn from them. I want to be able to help others the way they helped us." Her aunt hugged her. "Your parents would be proud." Kalira applied to the academy on Earth. Her application essay was simple. 5 years ago, I was dying. I sent a message asking for help. A human captain named Hyun-Soo Kim received that message. He came. His people came. They saved my world. Now, I want to serve alongside them. I want to make sure that when someone calls for help, someone always answers. She was accepted immediately. Admiral Hyun-Soo and his fleet arrived at the Kalith system. The raiders were still attacking Mira settlements. They were not a major military force, just pirates taking advantage of a peaceful species. All ships, combat formation. Let us show these raiders what happens when they attack innocent people. The battle was short. The raiders saw the coalition fleet and tried to run. They did not make it. Hyun-Soo did not destroy them. He disabled their ships and took them prisoner. They would face trial for their crimes. The Mira people were grateful. They had sent distress calls for weeks. The old Galactic Council had filed a complaint with the raiders' government, but no one had actually come to help until now. "Why did you come?" a Mira leader asked Hyun-Soo. "We have nothing to offer you. No resources. No strategic value." Hyun-Soo thought about that question. It was the same question the Velans had asked 5 years ago. "Because you asked," he said. "That is enough." On the coalition station, G1 received reports from across the galaxy. 7 species had been helped in the past month. 3 pirate groups had been stopped. 2 border disputes had been mediated before they turned violent. The galaxy was not perfect. There were still conflicts, still problems. But it was better. And it was getting better because people were trying. Dr. Haewon Shin, now 75, gave a lecture at the Coalition Academy. Young officers from dozens of species listened as she spoke about military history. "Humans are good at war," she said. "But that is not something to celebrate. We are good at war because we had to be. We fought each other for thousands of years. We learned hard lessons." She paused, looking at the diverse audience. "But we also learned something else. We learned that the best victory is the one you do not have to fight for. We learned that strength should be used to protect, not to conquer. And we learned that the strongest civilizations are built on cooperation, not domination." A young Tauran officer raised his hand. "Professor, why did humans help the Velans? Your people risked everything for strangers." Haewon smiled. "Because we remember what it is like to be weak. Every human civilization has faced extinction at some point. We know what it is like to be afraid, to be helpless, and we decided that if we ever had the power to help others, we would." The lecture ended with applause. These young officers would go on to lead the coalition forces. They would carry the lessons of the Krath War with them. Not just the tactical lessons, but the moral ones. Minister Yoo-Jin Song retired at 72. Her final act was overseeing the completion of the Coalition Defense Academy. It was a massive facility, where officers from all member species trained together. At her retirement ceremony, President Dongwoo presented her with a medal. "For your service in defending not just humanity, but all species who seek freedom." Yoo-Jin accepted the medal. But she did not make a speech about glory or honor. Instead, she said something simple. "We won the war. But winning is not what matters. What matters is what we built after. We could have become conquerors. We had the power, but we chose to be protectors instead. That is the legacy I am proud of." Captain Ki-Jun Han continued his reconnaissance missions, but now he was training Kalseth officers in stealth operations. The Kalseth were natural engineers and quickly mastered the technology. You humans have shown us that intelligence work can save lives, one Calseth officer said. In the old galaxy, spying was seen as dishonorable, but you showed us that knowing your enemy can end wars faster. Kijun nodded. War should be the last choice, but when you must fight, you should fight smart. 10 years after the war, Kalira graduated from the academy. She was top of her class in both tactical operations and xenoanthropology. She understood humans better than most humans understood themselves. Admiral Hyun-soo attended her graduation. He had mentored her throughout her training. When she received her commission, he shook her hand. I remember you, he said quietly. From the distress call. You were just a child. You saved me, Kalira replied. You saved my entire species. I will spend my life trying to live up to that example. You already have, Hyun-soo said. By being here. By learning. Kalira was assigned to the Defender as a junior tactical officer. Her first mission was responding to a distress call from a species called the Rentar. They were facing an environmental disaster and needed evacuation support. As the fleet jumped to hyperspace, Kalira stood on the bridge where she had once dreamed of serving. She thought about her parents, about her world burning, about the human ships that had appeared when all hope was lost. Ma'am, we will arrive in 6 hours, a crewmate reported. Kalira pulled up the distress call. She saw frightened faces, heard desperate pleas. It was familiar, too familiar. But this time, she was not the one calling for help. She was the one answering. Send them a message, Kalira said. Tell them help is coming. Tell them they are not alone. Across the galaxy, other ships were responding to other calls. The coalition had grown to over 100 member species. They had stopped 7 wars, prevented 4 genocides, protected countless lives. The old Galactic Council still existed, but it was a shadow of what it had been. Most species had realized that debates and diplomatic protests did not stop evil. Action stopped evil. Ambassador Ji-won Park, now in her 60s, gave a speech at the Coalition Assembly. Representatives from 100 worlds listened. 15 years ago, humanity was considered primitive, she said. We were tolerated, not respected. And when we decided to help the Velans, we were told we were fools. She smiled. Maybe we were fools. Maybe it was foolish to risk everything for strangers. Maybe it was foolish to believe that doing the right thing mattered more than safety. She paused, looking around the room. But I would rather be a fool who acts than a wise person who does nothing. And I think most of you feel the same way. The room erupted in agreement. Because everyone there had learned the same lesson. That safety without justice was not worth having. That strength without compassion was not strength at all. Admiral Hyun-soo Kim was 70 years old when he received his final distress call. It came from a small colony on the edge of explored space. A new species, just learning to use radio, was facing disaster. His officers looked at him. Sir, they are not part of the coalition. We have no treaty with them. No obligation. Hyun-soo thought about a little Velan girl begging for help. He thought about the 47,000 humans who died to answer that call. He thought about everything humanity had built in the decades since. Do they need help? He asked. Yes, sir. Then we go. Send the message. Tell them help is coming. As his fleet jumped to hyperspace, Hyun-soo smiled. The galaxy had changed. But the principle remained the same. When someone called for help, someone would answer. Always.